are kind of new to the Seth material, and you hear about beliefs, and you hear about looking at your beliefs and how everything is structured within your beliefs. And that's true, but when you start applying it, at the level we're going to be talking about here, and I'll get to the introduction in a minute here, but when you apply it at this level, if you look for beliefs, you'll be scraping the surface, and nothing meaningful will happen. When you do your belief work to make substantial changes in your life or to appreciate the deeper qualities of your life that are truly satisfying so that you can identify your strengths, instead of looking at beliefs, you need to look at facts. Now, when we heard Tam speaking earlier, he talked about the factual world, and I want to tell you that the world we live in, and each of us live in our own world, is made up of facts. Indisputable, irrefutable, 100% objective facts, not beliefs. I can give you some examples of this before you get too upset with hearing what's he talking about. A belief, and I'll give you a true belief of mine. I was trying to think of beliefs. There's beliefs, I'll give you an opinion. Neither, and I've never talked politics, but Bruce brought it up. Neither, what are their names? Dole or Clinton are our highest choices available. Of 250 million people, I've met a half a dozen right here, that are better. So that's an opinion. A belief, and I'll give you a true belief. Valencia peanut butter is the best peanut butter in the world. That's a belief that I hold. You can argue a person out of a belief with a few more facts. Another belief, Wisconsin is the most beautiful state in the country. It's the most beautiful. Here's a guy nodding. He's the only one nodding, though. Now, Michael Schuster, I think, just moved 2 years ago to Virginia. I've never been to Virginia, but he used to live near me in Wisconsin. I'll bet you if he and I sat down, and I respect him immensely, I bet you if we sat down with a picture book of Virginia, he might be able to give me some new facts about Virginia, and I might agree that Wisconsin is one of the more beautiful states. That's a belief. A fact, we live in a violent society. That's a fact. It's irrefutable. I can prove it to you through newspaper, television, radio. You don't want to hear it perhaps, but it's a fact. It cannot be changed. We live in a world of facts. Our beliefs emerge from the opinions we have about our facts, our thoughts about our facts in our world. Well, nobody's left yet, so that's good. Hold that thought, if you will. Try not to churn it over in your mind. Try to put it in a corner. Bring it back and listen to me for a moment. Seth talks about the seamless quality of instantaneous creation. And that's what I'm going to talk about. How does the Seth works? How does it work? It's seamless, it's automatic, it's instantaneous. When we say you create your own reality, it's not when you meditate with some incense or go into some prayer or whatever technique you use. That's not when you're creating your own reality. Your reality is created continuously, ongoing, all the time. The world you live in is created instantaneously. And if Norm were here, I'd ask him what the number is, but I think it's 10 to the minus 44th second. Isn't that it? We've been through the physics on this over the last couple of years. It's an automatic feedback system, and it's created seamlessly, automatically. And what it's created from are the facts in the physical world. Not your opinions, not your beliefs, the facts. If you want to change the automatic qualities of your life, or if you want to appreciate those qualities of your life that are part of your ongoing life, automatically created, instantaneously, you need to understand the facts of the world you live in. Seth doesn't use the word fact too often. Instead of the word fact, he uses the words core belief. When you're going to do belief work, and I don't care what technique or process, I like pencil and paper and intellectual stuff. Some people will use emotional. Linda Dowell's books have some excellent procedures. The technique I use the most is out of the Seth books about writing down beliefs. But if you're going to do substantial changes in your life, the work that needs to be done is at the level of facts. Look for the facts in your life, the things that you would never dream of questioning, the things that are true beyond any question of a doubt, that are confirmed for you in the newspapers, your friends, your family, your relations, your body, the facts of your life. If you want to make substantial changes, it's the facts you have to whittle away at. When you start whittling away at them, you'll appreciate that they are beliefs that can be changed, and that they are your beliefs. They are not you. They are the beliefs you hold. But when you're first looking for them, if you're looking for a belief, you're going to find that you're looking at your peanut butter choices. You understand what I'm saying? Only a few times in my life have I needed to or been able to change the facts of my life. But I'm going to tell you what happens when you change a fact. You are in and reproducing and living within a different universe. It's a different world. It may be in the same so-called physical space, but you're blinking off at a different rate than you were before. And the same people are there, but they're different people. They're different versions of themselves. The world is different. And what changed was you, but the entire world you changed to is a different world. You are in a different world. That can only be experienced. It can't be taught. But when you're doing your belief work at a deep level, which is what this is about, and changing patterns, qualities of your life, patterns of your life, reoccurring patterns, it must be done at a no-nonsense, deep level. Okay, is that enough of an introduction? Are you all with me on that? Do you get what I'm talking about when I say core belief? In fact, don't call it a belief when you're looking. Call it a fact, and you'll get further. Okay, this is kind of a pre-Stephen Hawking type of thing here. I was able to find out what happened just before the Big Bang, and that took a little work to do. I hope you all appreciate it, but I did find out what occurred just before the Big Bang. I'm going to go through these overheads very quickly. The talk is honestly 10 minutes long. The introduction is 1 hour. Please try to, it's actually 2 hours. I'm going to talk twice as fast. Please bear with me. Follow it. There you go. Notice the creators. That's what happened just before the Big Bang.
It's got to be done in front, Frank, or read it out loud.
Okay. The budget for creating has had to face some drastic cutbacks. The funds for smoke have been eliminated, and you will each be limited to only one mirror. Those are the rules of the game. When we all decided to become physical, what were the rules of the game? You've got a mirror. Be creative, learn, have fun. Okay. What was rule number 1? We all know it. We've heard it. It's backwards. There you go. We've heard that before. You know, when I went to get that quote, as many hundreds of times as I've read this, I always thought it said you create your own reality. In one of my books, it must say that. But I looked it up. It says you make your own reality. Well, we're going to talk about you. We're going to talk about make and your own, I should say, and reality. We're talking about the seamlessness now. We're talking about the ongoing process of how does it really work that creation happens. And I'm not going to talk about the physics. We've all had this. If you don't have Norm's book on Bridging Science and Spirit, you simply, if you're interested in the physics of the mechanics of the CU units, the EE units, the coordinate points, slowing down to the speed of light, the different speeds of light for the different universes, the different vibrational levels, all of that's available. I'm not going to get into that today. We're going to get into the mechanisms within self. These were all actually, and there we go. Let's look at this one for a second here. If you change a belief about the world, your experience will be changed. But if you do not change your beliefs about yourself in the world, the quality, the overall quality of your life will not be changed. Alan talked about the fellow, did you hear that about the Cadillac? Remember the Cadillac in the garage? Did everybody hear that one? This is what I'm talking about. And not just the NLP technique or the Sethian technique of being in the picture. I'm talking about meeting a challenge and using some creative Sethian concepts to make it different. And we do that. I've done that 1,000 times. My comment this morning was, the guy that gets married maybe for the 5th time, or the girl gets married the 5th time, it turns out it's, the same person. And Alan told me about a thing, I don't know if Alan's here, but he told me about a thing where he actually has a friend that married 3 times. The same woman, just different name, different person, but the same thing. What we're saying here is that you can use techniques and change beliefs and you will have a different experience. But to make fundamental changes in your life, you need to get a little deeper and you need to understand the process a little more thoroughly. Nothing complicated about that one. What I've done is try to take some simple concepts and make them really difficult. I'm going to get into, if I've got time, I'm going to get into some personal things. This quote on the bottom is actually my quote about 15 years ago. And I was in the Seth material. I want you to understand, this is not stuff for children. This is some of the ways that we apply the concept of conscious creation. We learn that, whoa, I'm responsible for what happens to me. And we learn techniques. We take seminars, we read a book, whatever. You learn a technique, and I visualize the Cadillac. Yeah, it's somebody else's, but, I did this. I'm connected with my reality. I'm going to get into that process of using techniques in the good concept of all these techniques we have, the meditations or whatever. There's something called a feedback loop where you become consciously a part of the process and you realize it's you using the technique and not the technique that did the work. But I was going through, I don't remember, I think it was after my divorce, but it was at a rough time in my life. I'm sure, has anybody had a rough time in their life? Well, and a very good friend of mine who's a very gifted psychic said, okay, Frank, so what are you going to do? You got a couple things going on, nothing really drastic. I mean, there's people here have had some real challenges. It wasn't anything drastic, but it was a lot of little crappy things that just weren't, it wasn't happy to get up in the morning. And she said to me, she said, well, what are you going to do about it? And this is my quote, I refuse to participate in my life until someone straightens up this mess. That was my comment. I wasn't completely serious, of course, but that's the way I felt. And so how do some of us use these techniques? We learn a few techniques, we read a few books, we package the Seth material within our previous framework of techniques and ideas, and we kind of let ourselves loose in the universe. Here's one I call the act as if technique. And this is kind of the guy with the Cadillac thing, isn't it, a little bit? But this is a financial concept here. Using techniques in the financial world. Act as if. My new Mercedes, well, I just put it on the credit card I got for my consolidation loan. Is she really changing anything in her life? No, she's playing a game with herself there, isn't she? Nothing fundamental took place, no fundamental change. I got to go through these pretty quickly. I've got an awful lot of things here. I know what's best. Change, damn it. It's all your fault type of thing, change. If you could just be the way I want you to be, life would be okay. All right? Does anybody identify with that one at all? It's, we'll go through these. I love this. I like what the artist did with this idea. It's better than my original drawing. Most of these are from my sketches and an artist did them. It's all your fault. Non-technique. I call it a non-technique because it gets you nowhere. It just kind of grinds there. How many times have you heard that version of your self-talk in your own life? The damn people in the office, if they just would cooperate, I could get the project done, right? It's a non-technique. Notice they're all thinking the same thing. Isn't that cute? All right. Here's one of my favorite. Tell me you don't identify with that every so often, huh? For health, I use herbal tea, wacko root, ice cream. For money, I rub amulets and visualize green presidents. For love, I hang out at the local bar. He's got a technique for everything here. All right. I love this one. Now, this is actually something I did for a couple of years. I didn't get the head things too often, and I was real successful with this in the areas in which my life was together. In the areas, the arenas, the qualities. Oh, okay, I'm getting a sign to push this up further. Okay. In the areas that my life was together, the qualities of my life already had the qualities that were working right. This really worked for me. But a lot of times we use this technique when we just want to shove stuff under the rug and not deal with the core beliefs, the facts of our life as we see life. And what do you get? You still get life, don't you? Right? Is everyone following the concept here of how all this stuff is outer directed It's all directed at the outside world, you know. This is a good example. I create my own reality, except it stops at my skin. Now listen to the self-talk on this guy. What a jerk he is. I hate him, I hate him, I hate him. But I'll be nice in spite of it all because I'm a nice guy. Look at the eyes. Look at that. Look at that. You know, I create my own reality, but not today I don't. I think this is the last one. This is my favorite one. And I know there are people, because I talk to people all the time that are into this. Just one more. If I just had the one more technique, everything would just work out for me. You know, can you read that? I'll bring it up so you can read it. See this guy? I've chanted, meditated, done my Tai Chi, taken my vitamins, smudged, hugged a tree, visualized, had my enema. I just know I'm just missing something. Okay, all of these are outer techniques, and they all work. In fact, I think the next overhead is my conclusion from a lifetime of looking at techniques. And this is my conclusion. Every one of these work. And they can be used within the Seth work, and they all work, and I don't want to condemn any one of them because I've used every one of them at one time or another, and every one of them work. And they always change the external reality. They always work. So I'm not criticizing techniques. It's when a technique becomes part of a feedback loop where the understanding grows that it's valuable. Okay. I think we got some Seth quotes here. You sit within the miracle of yourselves and ask for signs. This was from an ESP class. It is your inner eyes I would open. And now we're getting to the core of what the issue is here. It's your inner eyes I would open. Again, I'm going to go through these quick because this is still introduction. Okay. I'm going to read this, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it, and I'm going to try and make it quick and fast. Try to follow me. The ego is the portion of the mind, then, that looks out upon physical reality and surveys it in relation to those characteristics of which it is composed at any given time. It makes its judgments according to its own idea of itself. I'm going to take this down. Well, I'll leave it up there, but the ego arises from the personality. When we decided to become physical, we had to have a portion of us. Remember the chess game analogies from years past? Remember how we're each playing our own chessboard? Remember that? The ego arises from the personality. It's the portion that our higher self made to come into the personality and deal with physical reality as if it were real. It doesn't know any better. It doesn't know about Planck time. It doesn't know about anything else. It has a part of it that's an inner ego, but the outer ego only knows that this is wood and it's real and there are facts. That's what the ego is. It's a portion of the personality that arises to meet physical reality and define that reality as real. You understand? Everybody understand that? Because that is the core of what we're getting into. Here's another, I think this is a Seth quote again, yes. The ego sits on the windowsill, so to speak, between you, that's the whole you, and the exterior world. It can also look in both directions. The ego, while a portion of the whole self, can be defined as a psychological structure composed of, here's the key, composed of characteristics belonging to the personality as a whole, organized together to form a surface identity. That's the key. Characteristics of the personality are what the ego uses to assess the facts of the world. And we've got a couple more Seth quotes, and we got some of my quotes in here, all kinds of good stuff. The personality is given the greatest gift of all. The personality is given the greatest gift of all in physical reality. We're talking framework 1 right now. You get exactly what you want to get. That's the instantaneous, automatic. You create from nothing the experience that is your own. If you do not like your experience, then look within yourself and change it. But realize also that you are responsible for your joys and triumphs, and that the energy to create any of these realities comes from the inner self. What you do with it is up to the individual personality. So all of those techniques I showed were dealing with outer issues. Seth tells you to look within. Okay. The ego relies on you, your personality, to define what is real. And I'm going to call, just like Seth used the same idea over and over again sometimes to define the same idea, but he used different words and different approaches. I'm going to call what you define as real, your comfort zone. What is real to you, what you have, and how you react to it. In physical framework 1, that's it. What do you have in your life? That means your emotions, your health, your car, your job, your spouse, your friends, your family, your bank account. That's what you have. How do you react to it? That is your emotions, your interactions, and so on. This is all coming together in the talk, which is a little later. What you have and how you react to it is what is real. What is real, I'm going to call your comfort zone. A lot of self-help books talk about your comfort zone. What are you comfortable with? What you're comfortable with are the facts. What you define as real are the facts. That's what you're comfortable with. Unless you change your comfort zone, the facts about the world you live in, nothing real happens in your life in terms of permanent change. I have a diagram. Okay, we've got a picture of the ego. It's a structure. I tried to put it into a picture form. Outer ego, perception. Inner ego communicates with the higher self, dreams, and so on. Physical reality, the feedback loop between the creative energies from the source self to the physical reality is where techniques are beneficial. If you finally realize that it's you using the technique that did the creating, the technique is valuable. When the technique becomes the important issue, you've lost the purpose of using a technique. Everybody here should be familiar with that. Sometimes looking for evidence of techniques is a little rough to do, and that has to be done on a very deep level of appreciation of the creative effort in everyone's life. The creation of form, down here on the bottom, is a non-conscious process. That's the EE units, the CU units, the physics of the whole game. Creation of form takes place from the higher self. Okay, I've got other diagrams of the same thing. If you don't get that one, I've got another way to confuse you. I think this is one of my quotes that I made up. A couple of beers and got a quote. That's from the Seth Ideas. The ego directs the higher self to create what it believes is real. But, here's the little hook on this, what it believes is real is directly influenced by the characteristics of the personality. And that means exactly what it says, the characteristics of the personality. And we are going to talk about characteristics in a few minutes, because that's what you have to change if you want change. And that's what you need to appreciate if you wish to appreciate, and not be like Chicken Little holding up the sky and how do you know the sky isn't, how do you know that you're holding up the sky and it's really working because it hasn't fallen? No, you don't know why it hasn't fallen. The reasons some of the things are in your lives, whether good or bad, wonderful, terrific, joyous, or not so terrific, are very often not the reasons that you ascribe to them being there. And that's what this is about. The characteristics of our personality are merely the habitual patterns of thought and action that result from beliefs we hold most dear. What's another word for beliefs we hold most dear? Can you tell me? Somebody? What? Core beliefs. What's another word for core beliefs? What? Facts. Facts. When you want to make a fundamental change, look at the facts of the world around you. Look at the facts, because that's what you're going to be working with. And when you change those facts, you will be in another world. The characteristics of our personality are merely the habitual patterns. What do I have? How do I react? What do I have? How do I react? What do I have? How do I react? How do I react to my spouse? How do I react to my car? What do I tell myself when I get in the car? How does that fit in with other things? What do I tell myself about my boss, my coworkers? What are the habitual patterns of thought and action? Thought and action. What do I have? How do I react to it? That will help to define for you what your characteristics are. I heard another technique. Alan talked yesterday about getting your friends in your mind and what are their characteristics, what are their qualities. Do you remember that as part of the little 15-minute talk? And then realize those are your personality characteristics. That's another technique. There's all kinds of techniques of doing this. I don't want to talk about techniques because your own techniques will be what you use. But I'm saying that you need to get to a deep level of facts. And this is the mechanism by which it works. Then I'll get to how to do that and what to look for specifically so we can get to what beliefs relate to what qualities of life, so that you never do the same thing again if you don't want to. To deal directly with your personality, you must do your belief work, your fact looking, at the most profound, no nonsense, clear mirror level. Does everyone understand that? You can't BS yourself. You can't shove it under the rug. You can't really couch it within series of beliefs. You have to be, like Seth says, an archaeologist digging under the beliefs that you're standing on. You have to dig into real beliefs at a deep level. And it's not necessarily an easy thing to do. It's pretty simple, but it's not easy. Here's another picture of how that whole thing works. Background, upside down and back. There, you can figure it out. There you go. I'll start with it up here so you can see the top. You see that little arm going back and kind of scratching the outer ego. Okay, look at the diagram. It's pretty much self-explanatory. Sure, like a schematic of a computer. Okay. The outer ego selects perception. It does that. That's its job. It was given that job. It decides what you're looking at and what you're focusing on. The personality modifies and directs the inner and the outer ego. That's your personality, people. The inner ego directs the higher self. That's the back part of the ego that we don't normally pay attention to, that's in communication through our dreams, subtleties, awarenesses of hunches. It directs the higher self into framework 3, where there's concepts, purposes, interaction, design. That chooses from framework 2, you know, the probabilities, Hilbert space, etc. What probabilities closely match or most closely match the ideas and concepts that you fed your higher self. Something happens, right? The little electricity, something happens. The CU units, the EE units, the slowing down the coordinate points, slowing down to the speed of light of whatever speed of light you happen to be at. Physical reality is formed in framework 1 every 10 to the minus 44th second. You've got a piece of wood here. Physical form, time focus of consciousness, mind on reality, the physical focus. Immediately that is fed to the outer ego that again from that selects in the next 10 to the minus 44th of a second. What's real? What's real is what I see. What are we going to create? What I see. I'm referring to everything, not just the table in front of you. I'm talking about your newspapers, television, your friends, your car, everything. Anybody that's been in the Seth material knows what I'm talking about, I think, on that point. Another picture of the ego. Oh my God, how many pictures of the ego does this fella have? Cross-section of the ego, just another picture. Inner focus, outer focus. Director of perception is the outer part of the ego. Director of creation is the inner part. This talks to the higher self. That looks at physical form. Physical form only occurs at the interaction of your physical senses with physical reality. Hard to buy that, but it's your universe you live in. That's the whole point of the Seth material for creation. You live in your world. It's a shared world psychically, spiritually. You can't read that. You probably don't want to. It's just another picture of the same thing. Okay. How the ego determines our comfort zone. I'm just using another term to tell you what's real, our comfort zone, because we're going to use that as an example for changing reality, changing our comfort zone. What we have, how we react to it. Perception, action. What is this balance part of the personality here, our comfort zone? It's our personality. It's the balance point of our comfort zone. Our personality decides what's real, and what's real is what we define as comfortable. Okay, being hit with that 3 different ways, has everyone got that? Did someone say yes? Okay. The ego automatically, that's your instantaneous, simultaneous, continuous, seamless. Ego automatically aligns the world to conform to your comfort zone. Every fact you could look at is created by you. It will align it. Now, let's take this in real terms. There's person A and person B. What does this mean in terms of achieving a goal, for instance? I don't care what the goal is. It could be money, it can be a relationship, I don't care. I'm going to go through this very quickly. I hope that it comes across as well as it took me 3 weeks to put it together. Put it up, okay. All right, what we have basically here is a goal up in the corner. We've got some level of achievement over here, whatever the achievement. It doesn't make any difference what it is. This is the person's comfort zone down here. They want to be there. This is person A. You know, he gets excited about setting a new goal. He's read some books, tapes, Seth work, whatever. He gets sick, he loses sight of his goal, he kind of falls down. He sees a friend do well. He gets excited. He starts getting back and getting up here, and he's rereading some books and getting excited. He gets up here. He's close to his goal, isn't he? Maybe a month, maybe 6 years, I don't know. He can't believe it's true. What's the bell going off? I can't believe this. My comfort zone. I'm out of my comfort zone, aren't I? You follow me? I'm out of my comfort zone. I can't believe this. Well, so what's he do? He's losing everything. He's got to sell his clothes just to stay alive. You know, he's getting back into believability down here in terms of achieving a goal. He's nowhere near. He's back to where he used to be. He's down. Now he can believe it. I believe it. Yeah, right back where I was. And here he is. He's happy at last. Why is he happy when he didn't achieve his goal? Why would a person be happy when they don't achieve it? Has anybody ever done that? Yep. Once, maybe twice. Are there 2 people here that have done that? Huh? Okay, what's going on behind the scenes here, people? Comfort zone. What's comfort zone? Facts. What's facts? What you believe. What do you believe? What do I have? How do I react to it? What is my personality defined as real? What is that? The characteristics of your personality. I'm gonna put it all together in a minute here. The characteristics of your personality define your comfort zone because they are the creators of the life you experience. Here's what you didn't see with person A. You started out here. Here's the key. It gets too complicated. Ego sees, ego imagines. Comfort zone. Comfort zone. Started out, he read some books, it went up. His comfort zone went up. He got sick, it kind of came down. But his desire, his imagination was still working. It brought him up a little bit. Hope was way up there. Where was his comfort zone? He never really raised it. He never dealt with issues of the personality that changed his comfort zone. How come he got happy? Because he got back to his comfort zone down here, home at last. What brought him down? Some worry, maybe some fears. Because when he was up there, he couldn't believe it. Why couldn't he believe it? Because he wasn't in his comfort zone. Why wasn't he in his comfort zone? Because he didn't change the facts of the world he was living in. In the world he lived in, it wasn't possible for him to meet that goal. That goal existed in a parallel world or a simultaneous, well, I don't care what you call it. It was blinking at a different rate. Does that make sense? Comfort zone is the key to the automatic process of creating the characteristics of your life, such as keeping things in order on this. Let me see if I, okay. These were all right side up. Someone snuck in my room and changed it. I know that. Okay, here's person B. I think she was the lady with the Mercedes, though, wasn't she? Okay, person B sets a goal, gets excited, sets goals, books, tapes, whatever, gets sick, drops a little bit, sees a friend do well, boom, takes off, new book, can't believe it's true, but I'm pretending. That's where she bought the Mercedes. So it's not bad to use techniques. Sometimes they work. But what really changed in using that technique? Her comfort zone. We'll get to that. Sets a new goal. A lesson that took me a year to learn. A friend of mine who earned over $1 million a year, personal income. When I was going through this in 1982, he looked at me like I knew this stuff. I knew this in 82. I'd read every book on motivation, and I was well into the Seth material. He looked at me. We were in a conference in Texas, and he looked at me. He said, "What'd you do, Frank?" And I described to him what I was doing and some different stuff, and he looked at me like I was in kindergarten. And he said, "Frank, could you give me the numbers again?" He said, "You realize you're at 80%. Do you remember what you're supposed to do at 80%? Set a new goal?" Yeah. Well, things skyrocketed in my professional life at that point. What did I do? I changed my comfort zone in relation to certain aspects. Okay, comfort zone changed. Here's what you don't see on the person's goal sheet. Their comfort zone. You'd think I'd know how to do this, but there you go. What you don't see, obviously the comfort zone changed. She worked on her belief work, see their belief work, set new goals, got excited. Got enthusiastic, put some energy into what she was doing, and it became believable. I'm not going to talk about goal setting here either, but these are the mechanics behind successful goal setting. There's many ways of setting goals. Okay. Comfort zone, what does this mean? Now we're actually starting to get into the talk, I think, at this point. The meaningful part of it. What's a comfort zone mean? It means my house, my whatever, I can't read that, what to say. My income, my friends, my health, whatever. Anything in your life that has an ongoing quality to it, a repetitive quality to it, your cooperation at work, your lack of cooperation, your advancement in your career, your lack of advancement, the clothes, I don't care. Anything that's an ongoing aspect of your life is your comfort zone. It's based not on your beliefs, but on your facts. You understand the difference? Your facts. there's some cute stuff in here. I don't know where it's at. We'll went through some of the cartoons. Okay. Oh, okay. The only rule, you don't have to pay attention to this when I made it up. I did make this one up, but it kind of fits in with the talk. The only rule, remember, you're the judge and jury in your own life, and you're the one setting the comfort zone. You're the whole analyst of the whole thing. The only rule is to have the life you want. Not just the things, but the life you want, the quality. Become the person you would want to have that life. We're talking about your personality now, the characteristics of your personality. That is not an easy thing to do. Well, I don't know. It's simple, but it's not easy, like I said before. Okay, what I decided to do was look at 4 aspects of comfort zone, 4 aspects of qualities of life, things that influence large areas of our life. And what I'm going to try to do is, Seth doesn't really boil it down to, if you've got this thing going on as a repetition, look at these beliefs. If you've got this going on, look at these beliefs. He doesn't do that. And for a very good reason. It's not meant to be a religion with facts. It's meant to be self-exploration. We've got abundance, health, endurance, and luck are just 4 qualities. There's all kinds of qualities of life. I picked 4. And what I wanted to do was to show that Seth says the characteristics of our personality. What the hell does that mean? It means habitual ways of acting in life. Why would one act a certain way in life? Because they know facts. And they have opinions and beliefs about those facts. If you change the opinions, you change the beliefs, but you don't change the facts, you're going to go back to a version of living that fact, and these qualities of life will not change. They'll still reflect the facts, even if you change those superficial beliefs. I talked about crime. We live in a high crime society. Changing your beliefs a little bit are, I live in a high crime area, I'm going to move to the country. Did you change the core belief? Did you change the facts? Are you still going to see the same headlines in the newspaper? Are your friends still going to get mugged? Are you still going to live in a dangerous universe? Do you follow what I'm saying? You've changed a belief about a fact, but you haven't gotten to a core belief. Now, you can try to hammer away at a core belief, and I've tried this, and sometimes yes, I have been successful once, maybe. You can hammer away, I live in a safe universe, the universe is safe, the universe, and that can work. That's a technique, and it can work, and it may work very well. Typically, the few times I've worked with core beliefs, facts, I've chiseled at them. I've made conscious choices in physical life to look in another direction. When the fact changed, and I was in a different universe, not only was the old fact a non-issue, I couldn't find evidence of what existed before, or if I did, the trace was an unemotional, unimportant trace. Do you follow me? It no longer was a vital factor in that ongoing creation of seamless creativity in the qualities, the ongoing qualities of my life. Okay, I've picked 4 qualities. I've attempted to give 4 characteristics of personality that directly relate, in my opinion, to these. They are pretty much my opinion. You know, I've taken the information from multiple sources. I've tried to put it together. I've tried to tie it in with the Seth material. The point of all of this is not to buy what I'm going to tell you. The point of this is that if you want to make fundamental changes or appreciate fundamental qualities you have in your life, don't just look at your beliefs. Look at what you truly know to be true. And appreciate the fact that you created those facts. You are not your facts. You are not your beliefs. You are the person who has put energy into, for whatever your reasons were, facts. And from that emerged your beliefs and your opinions and so on, that are on the more superficial level. If you do have areas of your life that are repeating patterns and you really wish to change those, then you better look at the facts, and those facts are accessible through looking at your own personality. Not change, damn it. It's what's inside, what are my habitual patterns of acting and reacting, and how do I need to change the facts in my life so that my habitual patterns automatically change. When I have changed, the world is changed. I've chosen characteristics to go with these qualities. Take them for what they're worth, but the message is you need to look inside at a deep level to change your world. You can do it more superficially and change your experiences. Okay, let's define them so we can all agree on what they are. At least we can agree that I agree. Abundance, real broad, real simple. Expand, listen, this is a point. Expand your concepts of what these things mean in your life and what the characteristics. Don't use this in narrow, defined terms because it'll be nonsense. It'll look like the Catholic Church and doing the rosary. Please, use these to your own version of what I'm saying. This is all your own versions. This is real overlapping, interwoven, intimate, tied together with other things, other beliefs. Abundance, it just means having enough of whatever is required to do what you want. Health. Nothing profound here. The physical and mental ability to use and enjoy abundance. Power. Not Seth's idea of energy, because you have unlimited energy. Power means the endurance to be as active as you wish and achieve the goals, whatever those goals are, that you set. It means the ability to endure doing a project, whatever the project is. Luck. Luck usually means preparation meets opportunity. That's what the self-help books talk about. I don't mean that at all. I mean luck, the aha factor, the piece that falls into the puzzle at the last minute, the person that calls at the last minute to make it all work for you, the magazine article you find that's just exactly what you needed to solve the problem. The aha factor, not the preparation. That's all a whole different issue. I'm talking about the magic quality of luck. I'm the most shaky down here when I'm looking for a one-on-one characteristic with this luck thing. I made it up. It seems to be true in my life. It seems to be true in some of the people I know. Don't take it as gospel. Use this as maybe a guideline. Okay, here we go. This is the actual talk, by the way, in case you were wondering what happened here. We're actually into the talk. This is my part. The other stuff was just the Seth material that we all kind of needed to know. This is actually my part. Okay, here you go. Don't get too much. Don't take it too seriously. Use it expandingly. And look for evidences when you do your work. If you're having problems changing a quality of your life, this is the point. If you're having problems, the same things reoccurring, look inside to the characteristic ways you behave. Use whatever technique you want. I like the one the fellow mentioned about think of your friends and what are their qualities. Okay, that's really me. That's a way of doing it. There's NLP programs. There's all kinds of stuff to do this stuff. Abundance. It just means having enough of whatever's required. I don't care if it's money, time, cooperation, friends. I don't care. What brings abundance? I'm talking courage. What does courage mean? You figure it out. I think one of the reasons Seth never did this stuff is because of the charge behind some of these words. Writing the Seth material in 72, what did courage mean? We're talking Vietnam, we're talking all kinds of issues that were polarized, mean issues. I don't mean that at all. My self-talk when I think of courage, and I thought of myself as non-courageous for years, and then WIT, no matter what it takes. That's to me my self-talk. When I know I'm in courage, I'm going to accomplish this and I don't care what it takes. That's courage. What does that mean? In the areas of your life that you have courage, if you'll look, I believe you'll find you have enough of whatever it is you need to do whatever you want. What's the opposite? Not necessarily, none of these are exactly the opposite. They're just sort of swings of characteristics. Kind of the opposite of courage is fear. What's the self-talk involved? I can't. I don't care what your facts are of why you can't. If you've got a fact that tells you you can't do something, I'm telling you, you don't have to believe me, but I'm telling you, you're working from fear. Don't expect abundance. Don't look to the outside world to provide. When I have enough money, I'll try this project. Do you see the loop? Do you see the feedback loop of that technique? When I got enough money, I'll start the project. No, Teddy Roosevelt said, do what you can with what you got right now. I don't care what it is, but take step one. What's the feeling like? A feeling of courage is confidence and thankful. You're thankful for what you got, and you get more. What's a feeling of fear? Again, no matter what the facts are, I'm afraid because you're creating fear that's bringing you the facts. Tense, anxious, needy. There's some others that go with that. Actions. What are your actions in life? You're calm. Calm versus hurried. What does hurried mean? Doesn't mean that you do things efficiently. It means you're always running behind. Scattered, yeah. Deliberate. Well, this is reaction. Something happens. Now you're making movements in your progression of achieving a goal. What are your actions? With courage, they're deliberate. Even if it's a mistake, it's deliberate. What are your reactions out of fear? Indecisive. Oh, I'll try, well, maybe some. Well, I'll talk to Joe about this. People reactions. What is a basic reaction of a person that's exuberant or expressing courage? Trust. Bobby Joe brought me this article to put into this thing. Do I need to search it to see if there's slip-ups in it, or do I trust Bobby Joe? Distrust is the opposite. So if you're having, what this means in terms of a model for you to use, you don't have to use courage, you can use whatever you want, but if you're having a problem with abundance, look to qualities of the personality, habitual ways of acting, because that's based on facts, and you've created the facts. If you're looking for courage, listen to your self-talk, your feelings, your actions, your habitual reactions, your habitual people reactions. Look for the evidences of the characteristics in the personality, because that characteristic is what's creating the fact. Is that fact getting across to everyone? Because that is the talk. I'm going to get to the other qualities. Your characteristics are what create the facts. Change your characteristics of your personality. Listen to your self-talk. Pay attention to how you feel. What do I have? How do I react to it? Okay. Not too many people disagreed with me on that one. They get more disagreeable as time goes on here. I hope so, otherwise you're not thinking. Power. I really like this one because there's a lot of room in here for controversy. There is, really. Power. I'm talking about the ability to effectively use energy. We all got energy. Let's not question that. How do I use it to complete a project, whether it's driving to the store or a 10-year program? I'm getting a sign here that means something. Straighten it out or bring it up? Okay. All right. I'm calling it energy, focus versus scattered in your own personality characteristics. What does self-talk sound like? Well, something like, great, I finished that. Now I'm starting this. I don't have any time to spare. Think of the great creative geniuses of our time. They slept 4 hours a day. They never stopped. They lost their family life. I'm thinking of Edison. Lost the family life. You know, think of the multi-billionaires that made their fortunes in one area. They didn't sleep. They were focused. What are you doing? I'm thinking about cars. You know, what are you eating? I'm eating a meal that could be served in a car. You know what's he going to make his money on? Cars. The great inventors, the great developers, the great whatever. They're focused. They know exactly what they want to do. They've got the same energy you or I do, but they don't sleep 9 hours a day. Why? Because their mind is on their work. Scattered, what? What was I doing? Where am I? You know, where's my overhead? Feeling. You care. This is a good one. I like this. I really like this. And this is going to be an issue for you to really think about. And I really do. I'll argue this one with anybody. A lot of this stuff I kind of agree if you disagree with me. But this I feel very strongly about. Caring for others with true pride in accomplishment. Those are two different things. Caring for others. I care about people that die in a plane crash. I care. I do not have sympathy for them. Sympathy drains power. What does it mean? It means, oh, gee, that happened to you. The universe just happens to people. What bad luck. You want something to drain your power? You tell yourself that you're the victim of somebody's bad luck or your own bad luck, because if you believe that as a core belief, a fact, you can't be focused. Because no matter what you do, things just happen to screw it up, don't they? Do you see what I'm saying, how that works together? Sympathy. You find yourself having sympathy. In the areas in which you have sympathy, forget about having power. If you want to heal yourself of an illness and you feel sympathy for people who have illnesses, you're fighting yourself. You've got two very diametrically opposed beliefs. Caring for a person is one thing. Sympathy means you're a victim. What does that mean? I could be a victim too. That drains power. True pride in accomplishments, that doesn't mean that false pride. It means I did this, I was good here, I was good that way, but I really did good here. It's kind of an actual appraisal, increasing your appraisal value by increasing your quality of accomplishment. Frustration is the opposite. This is all pretty simple stuff. I'll bring it up so everybody can see it. Pretty simple. Why don't you read through that one fairly quickly. People who have to lead and take charge, basically they're giving up their power. Delegation implies developed power, and you get more ability to develop power if you can delegate, because that involves some trust too. Not gospel, my opinion. But look within yourselves for a model like this. Look for characteristics of the personality and how it relates to your life if you want to change qualities of your life. I've said that once before, I think. Is this interesting?
Yes.
Okay, because I'm not getting any feedback out there. I don't know, maybe you're all chanting or something. I didn't know. I just didn't. Health, okay, this is a little shaker ground. Seth tells us that you can't get unhealthy unless you believe in unhealth. I think he's a little better English than that, but you can't get sick unless you believe in illness, and that's true. And this stuff is intertwined. I'm talking about joy versus anger for being unhealthy. Please don't mistake anger with getting ticked off about something and doing something about it. That's not going to produce ill health. Getting mad for a month, a week, an hour, it's not going to do anything. The anger I'm talking about here is I'm mad as hell, and I'm just not going to do anything about it. You follow? It's that seething. It sits there for years. Doing nothing? No. It's playing out its games on you, very likely. This isn't a one-to-one correlation. But look, if you're chronically having health problems, don't keep dealing with your beliefs about the organs one by one as they die off on you. Look and see if maybe you've got some core facts about the world and yourself in the world that might reflect anger, and maybe some of the things that go along, like frustrations that go along with anger, some core beliefs. Joy, I'm calling and that's not really the opposite, but joy. That doesn't mean this person never gets sick. It means that they've got enough health to do what they want to do. They think imaginatively. This person thinks deterministic. Why? Why me? Why it? Why this? Feelings, happily and connected. Closed, isolated, limited. You feel isolated. Maybe you don't identify that in yourself, and they don't have to. This isn't gospel. But Jane did. One of the things she felt in her final days, she felt isolated. Not good or bad. I'm just saying it's connected. That's a quality that comes from a characteristic of the personality. And I just heard that the other day. If you wanted to be happily back at home and healthy on your porch, we heard that during the talks, remember? You could be tomorrow. What would be one of the things that maybe could be looked at if she wanted to be healthy tomorrow? Reaffirm her connection with all of us that were reading her books, maybe. Might have been a thing to do, which would have taken a lot of... I don't know. I'm just offering. Actions are basically spontaneous, harsh and ineffective. We're on health again here. Reactions, you study, you think, you stop to think about something. What are your reactions when you've got chronic anger? You attack. How do your people reactions go? Basically, people, you see good in them. Here you judge them, you find fault. In other words, if you've got this as a major part of your personality, it doesn't mean you're going to get sick if you're always finding fault. But look behind it. Maybe you've got some anger. If the anger doesn't go anywhere and do anything, maybe you're heading towards illness. There's other issues, but maybe you're heading towards illness. And I think the last one is kind of the cute one. I'd like you to look at this one. This is the last one. We're not talking about the preparation side of luck. That's all has to do with planning, intelligence, goal setting, knowing yourself, knowing what you want to do. I'm talking about the aha factor. What I identify as personality characteristics that go along with luck. The side door, I call it the side door principle. Stuff like, whoa, I can now do this, or I've got this, or this is here. Accepting and giving versus judgmental. Now I did some work obviously on this. I didn't just dream this up after a couple beers. There is evidence within the Seth material talking about these concepts, but not quite connecting them directly with personality characteristics, and not quite correct. Well, he connects characteristics of the personality with the formation of your reality, which is your facts. But he doesn't want us to do this as a religion. I'm just putting this up as a model for each to figure out their own. But accepting and giving tends to bring luck. Judgmentalism kind of puts you into a niche where you really can't get too much good stuff coming in. You're creating a very tight niche. Feelings are basically optimistic and content. I'm doing okay. And I expect to do better tomorrow. Brings luck. Self-righteous. Damn fools got ahead. I don't know how they did it, but they got ahead. Geez, I worked so hard and I just can't get there. You think you're going to get really lucky with that attitude? I mean, you might. I don't know. You got an oversoul looking out for you. So I don't know, but it's not really inviting. That characteristic of, if you find yourself continuously judging others, don't expect a lot of luck, because I don't think it's going to be. Now maybe, if you're really self-righteous and really condemning of others and you get a lot of luck, I want a phone you call collect. Because we can muck around in self-righteousness, but it has its consequences, and if I'm wrong, I got to know it. Because I love the self-righteousness stuff at times. It's good to wallow in that every so often. Self-directed and loose are your basic actions. Self-directed and loose. Other-directed and Rigic. You better get this. Rigic. You know, I thought we went through and proofread everything. Yeah, well, there you go. That's organization for you. Rigic. Make sure you know that. All right. Reactions. Spontaneous. Little plan. Don't anybody ask me what rigic means. Fill in the last letter. Spontaneous. Little planning. That's not necessarily good. We're talking about qualities that go along with luck. Reactions here. Contained, meticulous, thought out. That isn't bad, by the way. Meticulous and thought out is not bad. It wouldn't have allowed rigic to occur if I'd have been a little more contained, meticulous, and thought out. I mean, I was just seeing this for the first time. I proofread this again yesterday. Somebody came into my room and across the damn vertical line on that rigic. I know it. This isn't bad. I'm just saying that if you're looking for characteristics that correlate to qualities of your life, look at some of these things. People reactions, life is a party and I'm the attraction. You know, critical, hierarchical, right and wrong, rigic thinking. Okay? Rigic, yeah. I have no idea how much time we went through or what time is left. I don't know if I went over. 15 minutes left. I can sing me and Bobby McGee. What's that?
How about questions and answers? Questions.
Oh, thank you. I'll do you a favor sometime, too. Pretty much it said it all. I will give you the prelude to the preface to the talk again. The whole point of this is not to learn what I just told you in the last 10 minutes, which was the actual talk. The whole point is that if you want... The creation of life, how does it work? It works automatically. It's seamless. It's not when you're sitting and meditating. It's not when you're doing a particular chant or a charm or this. That's all a part of it. But life is a seamless, ongoing creation. How does that happen? How does it work? The personality has some characteristics that were given to us by our higher self. We call it an ego. The ego has some different parts. It's got an outer ego and an inner ego. The outer ego looks at the physical world to decide what the facts are. How does it decide? What is the lens that it looks through? What are the feelings on the end of your fingertip? What are the optic receptors? What are the auditory receptors? What's the cochlea made of? What are the receptors that are used? They're the outer ego's expression of physicality. How does it use those physical senses to ascertain what is fact? It uses the characteristics of your personality. I didn't make that up. That's out of the Seth book. The other stuff is made up. This is out of the Seth book. This stuff the prelude to the talk was Seth. It uses the characteristics of your personality. That's how you know your facts. Your characteristics. What is a characteristic of the personality? I'm telling you, it's just habitual ways of behaving. Why would a person behave habitually? Why would you do it? Because you know facts. And you've got opinions about those facts. What makes the facts? The same thing doing the viewing, the characteristics. You follow the conundrum here, the problem. Everything will always be true. Everything will be objectified and true and real in your world because you're creating the whole thing. The newspapers, the magazines, what comes into your life. Now, Richard Bach didn't like that idea of creation. He said bringing it into your life as if it's all already there, but you're drawing it. I don't care how you look at it. It doesn't make any difference. I think of it in the Sethian terms of it's a different universe, a different blinking on and off of physical reality. It doesn't make any difference at this level. You're dealing with framework one stuff. What do you think? What do you have in your life and how do you react to it? That's your facts. Who created those facts? You did. What's another name when you're reading your self-help books about, comfort zone, I gotta change my comfort zone. What's another name for it? Facts in life. What do you know as facts? Things you've created. If you want to do this kind of work and change the qualities of your life, you can't play around on the surface and look for your beliefs. Your beliefs are what kind of peanut butter you like. Where's a pretty place to live? Where's a nice place? Those are beliefs. The real beliefs that need to be worked at, and I'm not going to tell you how to do it because everybody's going to have their different way that's more effective for them. But you got to deal at the core level, and those are your facts. Yes?
When you were speaking of setting a new goal, when you get to a certain...
No, that's the 80% rule. Yeah.
All right, well, I'm not sure I understood that. How do you know?
Could I get water from
set
someone?
one And.
Oh, you want to talk about goal setting, and I wasn't prepared for goal setting. Goal setting is a whole different thing. Goal setting in Framework 1, which you can use Framework 2 and all that, there's a number of things that can trip you up. Obviously, beliefs is the key to doing anything and changing your comfort zone so that it's automatically your new area of living, whether it's financial, whether it's health, I don't care. And that's belief work, and that's what this is about. Thank you very much. Thank you. The specific points you're talking, there's beliefs. The way to get with goal work is not only to set a central goal that you then tie in with your higher self, your purpose in life, whatever terms you want to use, but you gotta, when you set a goal, you've got to tie it to something a little bigger than yourself. You know, there has to be some kind of, I mean, effective goal setting ties it to something bigger, some bigger purpose that keeps you going when the you know, how they put it, when they're grinding you down type of thing, you know. There's got to be something to keep you going. And usually it has to be something outside of yourself in your own mind. And then there's corollary goals that go with that, and then there's acting as if that goes with that, and there's tying things in together with that, and there's all kinds of techniques. But the idea behind that picture there, which was just simply showing how goals work, is that when you get to 80% of a goal, you're already successful. You're already successful. If you started at 10, whatever that is, and you get to 18, whatever that is, you need to like set a new goal because you'll always grind in there. That, I don't know if it's always true, but that's a common concept within goal setting. Once you have to recognize, it's kind of like having a giving account in your savings account. You got a giving account too. It's kind of like, even if you got $5 in it, it's kind of like the message, I have surplus. The new goal at 80% is kind of like, hey, I'm successful. I've already done all of this. Appreciate and recognize what you've done. Now go a little further if you wish. Yeah.
Yeah, that interests me too, Frank. I have a friend who is an artist and worked out of his house and set a goal of being successful. Became successful, and but didn't visualize all the trappings that came with it. Found out he had to run a business. Didn't like to run the business. Found out he had to have some employees to do something. Didn't like to do that. Found out all these.
Had to do some what? I'm sorry, I missed that one.
And he had to have employees, and he didn't. He wanted to stay in his house and just do his thing, and yet be successful in another sense. He didn't define.
He did not define what success was, and what am I willing to do what has to be done, and am I willing to pay the price?
Yeah.
And go ahead.
That's right. And so when he got there, and he didn't then reset a new goal either. I mean, he just got there, and then
that's what happened to me.
For years and years and years, because he didn't then reset another goal again.
Well, I was smart enough to seek out help after about a year. I went to a buddy of mine, and he just looked at me like I was a kid. You know this? What are you talking to me about, Frank? I said, oh, yeah. The most common definition of the difference between successful people and not successful people, and you have to think about your own interpretation of this, because it really means a lot. How you see this is you. But successful people are willing to do the things that unsuccessful people aren't willing to do. And that's the bottom line. That's the bottom line. I'll start this project when I know a couple that are into I think it's still called Amway, isn't it? The Amway. And these two people are kind of grinding away at things. It's a husband and wife kind of grinding away at things. And what I'm hearing is when they get a little more money, they're going to really get this Amway thing going. Well, that's a non-technique. They're feeding two different beliefs. Teddy Roosevelt was a Sethian. I don't know anything else about his other stuff, but this one statement tells me, at least at that moment, he had channeled information. Do what you can with what you got right now. Face up to what you have right now. Set your goal. Do something. Do something mental, spiritual, whatever, but do something physical. If you want Framework 1 results, do something. And the 80% is the next logical step. I've accomplished something. I'm at 80%. I am successful. You can modify your procedures or whatever you're going to do, but set a new goal. Appreciate what's involved in achieving a new goal. You may lose some of your old friends, or you may lose the way in which you look at your old friends. You may learn a new appreciation of life that you don't want to have. And I'm thinking of a friend who wanted to be, in fact, I can think of a couple people like this, but I'm thinking of a friend who wanted to have a business so that she could have employees because she would never treat her employees the way her boss treated her. And my comment, and this is a very brilliant person too, my comment was, if you don't change your beliefs about the relationship between bosses and employees, you'll never reach that goal. Because she had a fundamental belief about the evil relationship. Why would you? I can think of another friend in a similar situation. Maybe it will help define it better and bring it home a little closer, because maybe some of you aren't really interested in starting your own business. Promotion within a company. A very dear friend of mine. I've known her for 22 years, 23 years. Had a chance for promotion. She was going to be a manager of like 9 employees. I believe they were all men, I'm not sure, but there were some other issues involved. But the core issue with her was basically bosses are creeps. Bosses are creeps. Same idea, just a little different setting that more of you may be familiar with. She found every excuse in the world to not be a boss because she wasn't willing to change that belief. And that belief was fact. By the way, that was a fact. Her boss was a creep, I'm sure. I mean, I have no doubts. However, if she would have worked with the core belief at that level, she would now not only interact differently. What do you have? How do you react to it? What do you have? How do you react to it? What's your habitual patterns? Not only would that have changed, but the facts would have changed. The vibrations would have changed, whatever you want to say, new universe. She would have suddenly responded on the reality level of a new comfort zone. Bosses have a lot of responsibility. It's a pain in the ass to be a boss. They're just trying to get the best work they can out of us for what they're paying us. Maybe that would have been a new reality, but it would then have become the new reality, and his interactions with her would have reflected that new reality. You follow? That new reality would have made one of her biggest objections to becoming a boss now dissipate. Because bosses aren't creeps. They may have a little tough job to do at times. Maybe they can't be buddy-buddy with everybody. But hey, I can put my self-image into being a boss now because bosses aren't necessarily creeps. That self-image is your comfort zone. It's you within your environment. It's your facts.
Another friend, an artist also, and poverty, total poverty. His house goes into foreclosure about once every year and a half. And I said, John, what's your definition of success? Or what's your definition of wealth? Spontaneous, just write down.
Right,
wealth,
a good
money,
technique,
whatever.
very good technique.
And he goes,
Yeah.
Arrogant. He goes into all this stuff, horrible, use people.
So why would you want to be wealthy?
And then he equated wealth with success.
Yeah.
I said, John, how are you ever going to be successful?
Because you don't think of yourself that way, and you don't want to think of yourself that way. You don't want to be that.
That you're calling everybody else who's wealthy is. Yeah.
Are you understanding how the facts come into play? Do you see that that's not a belief he has? I mean, we would call it a belief, wouldn't we? Seth would call it a belief. But to your friend, it's a fact. And that's why all I'm saying is if you're doing this kind of stuff and you're making your list, I use the paper and pencil technique. What do I know about this situation? I don't care what technique you use, but if, for instance, in me using this technique, I don't look for my opinions, my beliefs, what I would call a belief, the peanut butter idea. I look for what do I know? What can I prove? What can I take 100 people into a room and prove to them that I'm absolutely correct? Absolutely correct. And I know it for a fact. That's the stuff that I have to change so that the next group of 100 people I bring into, I'm telling them something different because it's now different in that world. And it is different in that world. That's the level of belief work. It's at the factual level. Any other questions? No. Okay.
Great.
Thank you.